Hi, and welcome back to BKTV. I am Brian Karem, and this is The View from Here. Today, the President of the United States wanted to let us know everything's okay in his war with Iran. Never better. Why, he's doing so well, he's wanting to make a deal. But not really, but maybe he does. Actually, he blames Iran for not wanting to make a deal, but says they got it coming still because they've been bad boys. But we're doing great. It's the on again, off again Iranian war, and apparently it's on again, full throttle. So much for the agreement and the ceasefire. Hit it.
We're doing very well against the Islamic Republic of Iran. We're doing extremely well. They would like to do something, but I say they're not ready yet. They need more of the same. They're not ready yet. They got some evil intentions. We cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. If we did all this that I'm talking about your data centers, isn't that important? When they start blowing away communities.
All right, stop. Look, so basically Donald Trump said they want to make a deal, but he doesn't. Let that sink in. He could end the war, according to him. They want to make a deal, but he doesn't. He wants them to suffer a little bit more. Meanwhile, Donald Trump wants you to know this war is going so great that only 18 people have died. Yes, he's minimizing the casualties. And wait till you listen to what he has to say about all the other wars that we've been in since we've become a republic or a nation. That's right. Donald Trump is the best warmonger yet. Hit it.
And here, we were in Vietnam for 20 years, lost thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives, but thousands and thousands of lives. We were in Afghanistan for years. We were in all these wars that you heard about for years and years. We were, I called them never-ending wars. Well, we're in for 4 months, and I had a very sad day yesterday. I went to Dover, 4 great American patriots killed. That's 18 in 2 wars, and 1 is too many, but it's 18, whereas in Vietnam we lost 200,000.
All right, stop. 1 may be too many, but you just minimized the 18 that you killed. You lied about the number of years we were in Vietnam is like a dozen. And of course, we're calling it a never-ending war. You promised, you swore that this war would be over within 4 weeks. We're into the 6 months. By the way, you said you won it after 2 days by obliterating the nuclear weapon system that you obliterated a year ago. Yeah, wonder what it is you're snorting. It ain't the truth. Meanwhile, back to the casualty numbers, it was 50,000 about that died in the Vietnam War, not hundreds of thousands, 50,000. Don't minimize them, don't maximize them, just tell us the damn truth. And at the same time, Donald, you've said this war is over continuously. They didn't have a nuclear weapon. We had an agreement that they wouldn't build one. You started this war, and never forget that. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio, remember little Marco? Marco Rubio, here's a story about Marco. Marco is defending the president, of course. And listen to what he has to say about Donald's incompetence when confronted on it by a reporter. Hit it.
On True Social that the U.S. is going to bomb and destroy a bridge or power plant every time that Iran targets a ship in the strait. Is he talking about civilian infrastructure there? Do you think that is...
This is what he's talking about. Iran is begging us. Okay, both directly and indirectly. Let's do a deal. Let's talk. Iran is begging every day. The problem with Iran is every time they make a deal, the people that are in charge there, they either break it or they want to change it. So it looks like they're not ready to make a deal. So they're going to continue to pay a price.
Just stop. So he didn't answer the question about war crimes. Purposely targeting civilian infrastructure is a war crime. He also tells you that they either break it or they change the deal. Isn't that exactly what Donald Trump did? Yes, it is. Donald Trump tore up the old agreement, tried to renegotiate the agreement, and change it. So you think it might be a little bit difficult to get the Iranians back to the table? They're not going to make a deal with you. They don't trust you. And by the way, most Americans don't trust you. You want to know why? It's because when it comes to any issue, when we're dealing with Donald Trump, he's going to lie to you. Remember, he's telling us all that the Democrats are communists. Well, let's listen to this deal that Donald Trump has struck with Intel. Hit it.
50% by the time this term is over. We're going to have probably 50% of the chip market. A year ago, when we began we had no chip market. We had virtually none other than Intel. We had Intel. And we made a purchase of 10% of Intel. We got it for the right price. And we made approximately $72 billion on that deal. So it was.
Stop.
Do I get credit for that one? No.
No. Well, I'll give you full credit for that. But that is a hallmark of communism. When the government owns the means of production, that is a tenet of communism. Donald Trump doesn't seem to really understand that. And by the way, he thinks that we're all behind AI and all behind the government owning Intel and making billions of dollars off of us. He's so convinced of it, he's defending the data centers. Hit it.
And even communities compared to other communities. You have some communities that really want this. This isn't all negative stuff. You have communities that really want the data centers. And frankly, those are the smart communities because it means tremendous numbers of jobs. Very little actual disruption. And the ones that don't want it, the happiest people in the world are foreign countries, number one, and number two, other communities within our country because they're begging for them.
Stop. So if you're James Tallarico, you're going to use excerpts of this particular diatribe by Donald Trump and put it in your commercials because there are a lot of communities in Texas where the Paxton and Tallarico race are neck and neck that don't want data centers. In fact, most communities don't. It's a NIMBY issue, not in my backyard. And Donald Trump just insulted everyone who doesn't want that in their backyard by saying that they aren't a member of a smart community. They're so stupid, only I am smart. Let's see how that plays in the fall, Donald. Millions of people would disagree with you, and they vote. Meanwhile, let's move on to other things. It is, of course, another day in Congress, another attempt by someone in Donald Trump's sphere to become part of the official language of the United States. In other words, part of his bullshit minion crew. This time, it's a guy named Brian Johnson, who Elizabeth Warren, you can see her here going after him. Wants to be part of the Consumer Protection Agency while he's being paid by a very large bank. And Elizabeth Warren is having no part of it. Hit it.
All right, let me just ask you then about your turn through the revolving door. You worked at the CFPB as a deputy director from 2017 until 2020, and then you became a VP at Capital One at the same time that the CFPB dropped its enforcement action against Capital One. Mr. Johnson, do you still work for Capital One today?
I do, Senator. I am
so
here today in my
you're drawing a
personal
paycheck
capacity.
from Capital One right now as you sit here and testify in front of us?
Senator, I'm testifying in my personal capacity today.
Okay.
Sir?
But they're paying you to get confirmed for this job. I understand they're also letting you keep a bonus that you haven't yet earned when you leave. They must be really excited about getting you confirmed here. Congress did not create the CFPB to aid and abet Trump's corruption. You had a chance to take a different path, but all you've done today is indicate you're there to keep the corruption machine humming.
Well said, beautifully said. Watching out for consumers. It's nice, isn't it? You want to see someone else who's looking out for consumers and voters? Well, let's go to Senator Pete Ricketts from Nebraska, who is all in favor of limiting Congress from being able to engage in stock trading when they are in office. That's a novel concept, isn't it? Don't get rich off of representing the people with insider knowledge. What a concept. Let's listen to him explain why he is for this particular piece of legislation. Hit it.
What we're trying to do with this legislation is really address the issue specifically here in the Congress. I mean, we have seen it where people publish, for example, the former speaker's stock trades, and it makes money. So crazy as it sounds, it becomes a legitimate stock trading strategy. That just shouldn't be. What we want to do is make sure we're not locking out people who who come, say, from successful business. We don't want to, keep a successful business person from coming to the U.S. Congress by saying you can't have any stock. What we're going to say is you can't buy any more once you get here, and if you're going to sell anything you have to notify people, and there's a 10% penalty plus disgorgement of profits to be able to, if you fail to do that. So we think the penalties are very significant with this. And again, we're focused on what we're doing here in the Congress. That's where we think we need to address, because, as I said, getting back to that 15% approval rating, it's clear that the American people are not trusting our institutions. And if this is one thing.
He's exactly right. We don't trust our institutions, not the Congress, not the Senate, not the House, not the executive branch, not the judicial branch, and definitely not reporters. Hell, I don't know about my doctor anymore because of RFK Jr. But nonetheless, he says that this particular piece of legislation is close to being enacted because both sides are equally upset with it. So there's something in it for everyone and something to upset everyone. But you have to, one of the things you have to understand, of course, is that to understand these issues, you need a modicum of education, something that will give you the ability to think critically, something that will give you knowledge of how these systems operate. And it's something that Donald Trump says you are one person in particular. You're a loser. Hit it.
So we have to stop the threat of the communist rhetoric that you're hearing right now, because these people, they don't act. I'm very happy a poll came out. It said they're highly educated, but doing very poorly. In other words, they're losers. They went to school, they got a good education, now they don't know what they're doing. So what they do is they complain about people like yourselves that have done so.
No, they're complaining about a lot of things, and Ricketts put it into pretty good words. So did Elizabeth Warren. And as you call them communists, let's refer back to the beginning of this broadcast when it was Donald Trump who admitted that the government has bought 10% of Intel. When the government owns the means of production, that's part of communism. So, Donnie, you're the communist and you ain't that bright. But Donald Trump is not convinced that people are not yet. Well, he's not convinced they're stupid enough to vote for him anymore. And he's also convinced that you've got to limit education. Why, just listen to Linda McMahon discuss about how they want to make sure that American students have an off-ramp before they get an adequate education. In other words, she just wants everybody to be, able to work in blue collar, but nowhere else. That's how I say it nicely. Hit it.
And let's develop the skills that children have a natural propensity for, and not force them into, a path of education that's not going to serve them well. We need electricians and plumbers, and we need HVAC operators, and we need data engineers, all of that. So let's provide the kind of education for them, get them into pathways toward that education, starting, even in elementary, middle schools, high schools. I love high schools now that are working with our community colleges or vocational or technology schools so that there are dual diplomas.
I have nothing wrong with that vocational education, and I think there's nothing wrong with it. But when she says they're getting too educated, when this woman says it's bad, these education systems are bad because they're teaching higher education, there's nothing wrong with being enlightened. There's nothing wrong with not using it. But there is something wrong about not teaching it, not making it available, because that means that the government is trying to control your actions, and they do not want you smart enough to know what it is that they are doing. Yes, if a child needs to go into vocational education, wants to go into vocational education, make it happen, Captain. But if they want to learn something deeper, poetry, art, history, that would be nice. Medicine, science. Remember science? We used to worship science. Now we tell everyone that it doesn't exist and we never landed on the moon. There is a problem here, and it's the government. What we've seen is the government wants the rich to get richer. We saw that with Elizabeth Warren. We know that they want you to believe whatever it is that they tell you. We saw that with Donald Trump. We also know that he will be backed up by those who know that he's lying. Marco Rubio. And of course, Linda McMahon wants to make sure that you're not able to understand or focus on all of this in the future because she wants you to be not more educated, less educated. So where does that leave us? Well, No one has ever said it better than George Carlin. Let him tell you exactly where this is going. Hit it.
There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want you.
Think about it. He said it as a joke on stage, and that was what, 20 years ago? He ain't wrong, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope your experience was most triumphant. Anyway, we do post on this channel daily. We have new segments coming, fresh interviews as well. And as always, we'll be tackling the hard issues and taking a deep look into politics, journalism, and anything else that catches our fancy. So anyway, please like, subscribe, comment, and of course, as Anita Ward would sing to us all, ring my bell, ring my, well, you know what I mean. Be excellent to everyone.